What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. I'll be your host and producer, Logan Landers. Joining me here this afternoon is going to be Brian LaPel. And today we're going to be talking about the 2025 NFL Draft prospect, Armand Membou, the offensive tackle coming out of Missouri. So, Brian, this guy, Armand Membou, had a lot to talk about. We've heard a lot of buzz about this guy after the combine. I'll let you tell the people why. Why everyone was talking about this big guy coming out of Missouri. Any reason why he got so much hype around him?
I think he was the second fastest offensive line in the combine. With his 40 time, it's a sub 540 for a guy that's 6'3", anywhere between 320 and 330 pounds. That's a terrifying prospect. If you're a linebacker and he's running free and coming into your gap, or God forbid a safety or a DB, and you're like, oh man, this guy's coming for me. He's headhunting me. I just the speed on some of these guys now is insane. At his size, you shouldn't be able to move that fast. That shouldn't be allowed. There should be physics that requires you to be a lot leaner, a lot smaller, and he just defies it. He doesn't care. But I mean, he shot up a lot of draft boards because of his speed. His tape's pretty good too, but man, the kid could fly.
Yeah, he was just super impressive, I thought. And whenever you run under a 540 as an offensive lineman, you're doing something right. I saw whenever I was researching, it says an NFL lineman hasn't gotten a time that high or that low, rather, since 2003. So, I mean, he's done something that has been done in over 20 years in terms of his speed. So, like I said, he didn't do a 40. He didn't do a second 40. He probably said that was my one and done. I don't think I could top that one. He's not He's not Darian Porter who said, "Let me run one more. Let me do another one." But he did, he did some good numbers in other areas too. A 9.7 broad jump as well. Got some good heights on the young man. And challenged Will Campbell in terms of, we talk about just combine stats with all those. So he definitely upped his value, I think. It was already going to be high, I think. This was a guy who is already a super impressive tackle. Played high school in Missouri, chose to stay home, played at Missouri in college, and he did great all around. I know you don't hear a whole lot of talk about the Tigers, but I mean they were a really good team. And in 2023, they were a finalist for the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line, or semifinalist rather, for his position. We saw just how good that offense was, where they were able to run the ball a lot, and also they limited their teams to just one or fewer sacks in just 5 games. So they look good overall in the line. And his junior year, this past season, right, looked even better. They're in second team All SEC, played in 12 games at right tackle, and just has some tremendous athleticism. And also, too, I was looking here, Brian, he's only got 18% body fat at 300 plus pounds. So these aren't the guys of old. You can see they're 300 plus. Now they are they're lean and a much stronger 300 plus pounders as just athletes have evolved over the years. But I mean, a guy who is just one of those guys you don't look at and say, oh yeah, he's going to run under a 540, but he can do it, man. He's also fluid. I mean, you watch his tape, like you mentioned, he isn't just some brick wall who's just going to stand there and kind of hug you, right, and just make sure you can't move. He can move. He can move his legs. He's got some really good footwork to him. Also, good body control, right? He's not going to stumble over his feet or anything like that. He looks solid as both a run and as a pass blocker, I think. And like I said, he knows when to pick up on defenses if he might get doubled, if he knows where to go, where to kind of close those gaps at. He's also just a really good just offense tackle. He knows how to finish plays, right? He doesn't hold on to you for a second. It's like, all right, yeah, I think we're good. No, he will get you until that whistle's blown. And that's what I like about him. He's good. He can do outside running too. If you're throwing a pitch or anything, he's going to be right there with the guy, for God's sake. So I think that overall, missed Armand Membou, man. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of stats for offensive linemen. That's just how it goes. But if you watch the film, especially on linemen, especially on offensive tackles too, that's where you're really going to see how good they are. And I mean, this might be one of the most just athletically gifted offensive linemen, just period, we've seen in many years. I mean, I'm that impressed with you, man.
He's very strong too. We don't
Yeah.
talk about that. He's got good strength. He's very, very good at going to the next level. You said finishing blocks, but if you watch his tape at Missouri, getting underneath his guy, getting the linebacker, he's also very good at sealing the edge. Like, hey, listen, as long as you don't make the tackle, that's a W for me on this play. And he was very, very good at doing that against very good players. He's at Missouri, so you got Georgia, you got Alabama, you got Florida, you got Tennessee, you got all these different schools where you got guys that, again, Sunday players. All these guys be playing on Sundays on the edge. We're bragging and boasting about all these kids, some of them in this draft class, and he held his own against them. So he's done a good job. He's shown you that he can play with the top talent. He's a very good tweener too. He's very good against the run. He's also very good against the pass pro guys. The guys are going to put their hand in the dirt. And I'm going to try to get around you as fast as I can. It doesn't work with him because he can keep up with you. And he's a right tackle, so that might hurt him a little bit. The fact that he's not a blindside guy, because, left tackles as a premium, there's maybe 15, 20 guys in the world who are elite level left tackles who you trust to block on the blind side of your multi-million-dollar quarterbacks. But he's spectacular in what he did. Maybe you get a lefty and he's a blindside guy and he can adapt to that. But what he was able to do on film was really impressive. It was very consistent. Missouri was a very good football team. He was a big part of that on the offense, especially. And I mean, there's nothing he does bad.
Right.
I think that as far as offensive linemen, when you have that speed, when you have that strength, when you have a lot of this tape, there's a lot of raw stuff, right? Because maybe you go to the pros and they're like, well, we want to run a different scheme. We're going to run more zone. We're going to run more of this, more gap assignment stuff. And I think he could do any of it just because of what he brings to the table as far as his size, his speed, his strength, like we mentioned. I think someone's going to be very, very happy drafting him. I'm not sure where, but I think he's going to make some offensive coordinators and mostly your quarterbacks be very happy. Like, hey, I'm happy we have this guy, protecting me.
Let me ask you this question here, Brian. The only kind of one negative thing I've seen people say about him is the fact that he is just 6'3", which is considerably smaller in terms of height than the majority of offensive linemen in the league, offensive tackles as well. But I mean, it seems like we always hear that with quarterbacks, but you don't hear it a whole lot with linemen. Do you think that's going to affect his draft stock any? I know he's already looking like penciled in, first round pick. If not, then second round for sure. Do you think that's going to maybe bump him down a little bit hot or to a later pick than would have already been?
That narrative's kind of gone out the window a little bit because a lot of people said that about there's a guy's named Aaron Donald. He played defensive tackle. Like, oh, this guy's way too small to play defensive tackle. And he's going to be wearing a gold jacket here in a couple of years at that position. But I know John Elway famously was like, let me get the tallest quarterback in the draft. I want the tallest players. Help me out here. Some guys do really like that height, but you kind of have a smaller breed of quarterbacks as well. You got the Kyler Murrays, you got the Tua Tagovailoas. You don't necessarily have the 6'4", 6'5" guys like you do with Joe Burrow and some of these guys, but as long as you can block, as long as you get the job done, and I think if he's good enough, he can use it to his advantage because you got leverage. Especially with a lot of these smaller defensive ends now. You get some of these 6'2", 6'3" defensive ends. They can't really bend and get underneath you as much as they could a 6'5", 6'6" guy at tackle. You're down at their level. So, hey, if you're going to bend with it, I'm going to be right there with you. I'm going to put you down in the dirt. Okay, reset. Try again on the next one because I got you there. But it could. Obviously, I'm not inside the head of any NFL GM. If we could be inside the head of all the NFL GMs, we wouldn't need to be doing this, right? You wouldn't need to be doing the prospect shows. You wouldn't need to be breaking it down and speculating. But, I mean, he did a really good job, like we said, against top-tier talent in the SEC. And if someone is, going to say, hey, we're not going to take him because we like our guy to be 6'5", hey, tip your cap to that guy. But I'm sure the next guy in line is going to be like, hey, we will absolutely take it. We don't care if you're 6'3". Come play for us.
I think, just giving my final thoughts here, I think that we've seen over the years that just kind of, stereotype is kind of been thrown out, right? You see a lot. And also, I mean, I mentioned earlier, he's a lot leaner as an offensive lineman. He's not a William the Fridge Perry in terms of just his size. You might have the weight a little bit, but I know the Fridge was running an under 540-yard dash. I can tell you that much. But I mean, I think that as long as you get this guy in a system that is honestly he's kind of fast moving, a lot of quick throws, maybe some pitches out to the side, maybe a lot of no huddles or hurry up offense. I mean, he's going to be right there, lock, step, and key with you because he's got that great speed. He's clearly in shape for a guy his size, and you don't have to worry about him tiring out. He's consistently putting good work in on the field against A+ talent in the SEC who always has, if not the most and the second most players drafted per season in the NFL draft. And Armand Membou is going to be the next guy in there. He's going to be a highly recruited pick. And look, man, it's like wide receivers in a sense, because offensive linemen, they're dime a dozen. You pick a lot of them, and the vast majority of them don't last long. So, I mean, that's kind of especially like I said, for tackles, which I get he plays right tackle. But if they want to switch him to left tackle, I don't think that would be much of an issue for him. I think he could learn that pretty quickly. But I think that whoever goes with this guy, they're going to get a workhorse, someone who's already in shape. You don't got to worry about having him a weight loss clause in his contract or anything. But I like Armand Membou. I think he's a great player. He did great at Missouri. Someone who just kind of took a chance playing football. Did great in high school and developed and got even better as a Missouri Tiger. But now we'll see where he goes in the NFL draft. But Brian, what are your final thoughts here on Armand Membou, the offensive tackle out of Missouri?
He could be an absolute nightmare in the screen game with how quickly he can get out there and get downfield and move guys out of the way. I think he could be very, very sneaky as far as that's concerned. You might have a team that's like, hey, maybe we run a little more of those quick screens, get him out to the receiver. Maybe we get Armand out there because, I mean, he can do it. He's fast enough to where, hey, he's in a second, he's out there. Kid can play. He's a good prospect. He's a great talent. He's got everything you want, except, like you said, maybe if he was 6'4", which is kind of crazy to think about. If he was 6'4", we'd be talking about him maybe as like a top 10 guy, but he's only 6'3", big deal. I think whoever ends up with him is going to be very, very happy. I think if they're looking for a right tackle, I don't think you need to look much further than this guy, and I think your only issue is if he's already off the board.
Yeah, I think also, too, another just kind of cool scheme you can put him in due to his speed, because you know how the Lions would do it last year, where they would sub in some offensive linemen to run just a nice post route and get you a touchdown. It would not surprise me one bit, Brian, if we saw Armand just quickly run out there and say, hey, I'm in. We got to go here.
Can you catch?
I would hope he could catch a 5-yard pass. I would hope so. Just don't throw him a bullet. Just lob it to him. And he can just cradle it in. He doesn't need the one-handed or anything like that. Just give it right in the chest, and I think he'll be good to go. So just that speed. Now he's not gonna break anyone's ankles, but he's gonna be a lot quicker than I think some of the other linebackers and DBs suspect. But I think this kid's got a world of talent, and I'm excited to see who picks him up. Atlanta. I'm just saying. We would love to have him here. But hey, for Brian LaBelle, appreciate you coming on the show talking about Armand Membou, offensive tackle out of Missouri. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Guys, if you enjoyed the episode, like, follow, share, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see y'all guys again on another live NFL Draft Prospect episode.